Teach Me Coco. My name's Joel West, and in this tutorial video we're going to go over creating a scroll view that has a nice header with a parallax effect as you scroll and a nice blurred image on top of it. So I'm going to show you this by creating a demo app. I've designed this tutorial to be easy enough that if you're completely new to Coco development, you should be able to follow along pretty easily. But if you have some experience with iOS development, I do have links to the gist files on GitHub of the code that I'm using, so you should be able to take a look at that and you might be able to skip over the video entirely. But I'm going to split the video up into two parts. So the first part we're going to go over just setting up CocoaPods and using VGParallaxHeader by @stop_ROCNT by probably pronouncing this wrong, but Merrick. So in the first video all we're going to do is get CocoaPods set up, but then in the second video we're going to create a header helper class, which I've linked in the downloads, a little helper class I made with a nib view, and we're going to put it all together to get a nice parallax scroll view. So a huge shout out to Clint at Clint Cabanero. He had made a comment on a tweet about this effect that I had gotten in an app that I'm working on, and he was interested in a tutorial video. So I hope this helps you and other people that are interested in. So the first thing I want to do is show you the effect we're going for. So here's an example here. You can see this is a scroll view. And as you scroll up, the image at top starts to blur out. And then if you pull down, it gets a little bit larger once you get past the height of the image. So pretty neat effect. I think it looks pretty nice. It's not terribly difficult to get going. So that's what we're going to do here. So let me quit out of this here. So the first thing we want to do is get CocoaPods set up. Now if you're not familiar with CocoaPods, it's a tool that lets you integrate third-party code into your project. So if you've ever tried to integrate code written by someone else as a framework or a library, that can be really challenging as there's a lot of little settings in Xcode you have to get just right. So CocoaPods is a great tool that makes that whole process really easy. So the rest of this video I'm going to show you how to get that installed, and then in the next video we'll actually use it. So the first thing you want to do is go into Xcode and make a new project. So I'm going to pop open Xcode here, and we're going to create a new project here, excuse me. We want to do an iOS application that is a single view application. And I'm going to just name this Parallax Blurred Header Demo. You can name that whatever you like. We are going to do this tutorial in Objective-C, and we will not be using core data or any sort of testing. Okay, I'm going to make mine right on the desktop. You can make or save yours wherever you would like. So we have an empty project. So the first thing we need to do is get CocoaPods installed on your computer. So to do that, all you need to do is type in sudo gem install CocoaPods. And that'll get the gem installed on your computer. Now I already have it installed on my machine, so I'm not going to run that. But you just hit enter and it might ask for your password and it'll get CocoaPods installed on your computer. So once the program itself is installed, you need to change directory into the project you just made. So you do that with just a simple CD for change directory, and then a space, and then a ~/desktop, because I saved mine on the desktop. Then I called mine Parallax Blurred. And quick tip for you, if you hit tab, it'll autocomplete if possible. So Parallax Blurred Header Demo, and I'm going to type in pod init. And that'll get CocoaPod started, and then pod install. That'll take just a minute here. While that's loading, I'm going to load up my demo project here because I can't quite remember everything we need. That's still updating. Okay, so you can see that CocoaPods are now set up, so we can close out a terminal. If you open up your project now, you will see there's your normal Xcode project file, but there's also now a Xcode workspace that's white. Now from now on, as you're using CocoaPods, this is the file you want to open Xcode with, not the normal one you're used to. So go for the white one, the workspace. If you open that up, drag that over to the right screen here, you will see there's your normal project like you're used to, but there's also this sub-project called Pods. And under Pods at the very top, there's something called a pod file here. It's just a text document. And all you have to do to get third-party code installed on your project is just type in a pod. So for instance, we need VGParallaxHeader. Well, all you have to do is type in pod and then in quotations VGParallaxHeader. I use PromiseKit a lot, so you could use pod, and then I believe it's just PK PromiseKit or something like that. But if you go to GitHub and look for these various open source projects, they usually just say add this line to your pod file, and they provide it. Okay, so that's in the pod file now, so you save it, and then you close out of Xcode. Then once again, you jump back into terminal. So saving that in the text file itself doesn't do anything. You have to run pod install. So all you do is change directory back once again to desktop, and then the parallax blurred header demo. Parallax. Did I spell it wrong? P-A-R. Blurred. And I did. There we go. And then you run pod space install. And that's going to install that pod that you added to it and any dependencies that it has. So you can see it's installing VGParallaxHeader. It's also installing pure layout because VGParallaxHeader does depend on pure layout. And that's all there is to it. We can now close out a terminal, open up this project once more. Once again, use the workspace. And once it pops open, you will see here that if you look in the pods file, there's now pure layout, and there's now VGParallaxHeader. Okay, so we have all the third-party software integrated into our project that we need. You'll see a link in the description to a few downloads. So there's a little helper class I made here. You'll see the .h.m and the nib file. You'll also see an image that we're going to use for the header. And then you'll also see two files that are called UIScrollView+VGParallaxHeader. That is these files here that I haven't written any of this software that is part of the third party. I made a few modifications, so I just copied the entire file here so we can make those modifications together. So once you have these files right here and you have your pods installed, let's put it all together and make a parallax scrolling video a parallax scrolling demo in the next video.